All right, this is our first show. Welcome to Staying Home in Minnesota. My name is Raider Live. With me is my co-host Ryan Hype. How you doing?
I'm alone in a dark room. How are you?
I'm alone in what appears to be the internet, all by myself here, all by myself.
True. Whatever happened to Max Headroom? I don't know.
Well, he broke into that TV station years ago. Remember, somebody broke in and played a fake Max Headroom thing during Doctor Who. I remember Doctor Who. Anyway, we're getting off track here. It's our inaugural show, Ryan. Our inaugural show. How you doing today?
Okay, but now you got me concerned about this Doctor Who thing. Was that an episode of Doctor Who?
You don't remember that?
No.
Oh, you got to look that up. Where there was these guys that broke into a TV station, Signal, dressed as Max Headroom, and they were doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And it was never solved who broke into this the TV station.
Like that was a real thing.
Yeah, that was 1989 or something like that. How have you not heard of that? The Max Headroom incident. How have you never heard of that before? And it happened during Doctor Who.
1989 Doctor Who. I don't even remember Doctor Who in 1989.
It was the one with the Doctor Who with the red and the fro. What was his name?
Baker?
Was it?
Tom Baker wasn't.
Tom
Baker was. Huh?
Yes, Tom Baker. It was Tom Baker. It was a rerun of Doctor Who.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like actual. But anyway.
He was a doctor by that time.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about what our show is about. Mainly, we got 4 or 5 topics that we cover. 4 topics, actually. What are we drinking? What are you doing? What are you listening to? What are we watching? And what are we looking forward to as we're all on quarantine here? We're going to start with what are we drinking?
Afternoon, everybody. Oh!
Norman?
Gentlemen, start your taps.
Now, Rod, they may not know you and me are kind of brewery snobs here. What are you drinking today?
I don't know if I'm a snob.
Oh.
Like,
A
they're
brewery
very.
fly, would that count?
A what?
Brewery fly, like a bar fly?
I mean, that's an interesting term.
How many breweries have you hit in the state of Minnesota?
In the state, 123, I think, out of 100, and I think the last time I saw it was 192.
The prosecution rests.
Huh?
I said the prosecution rests. So what are you drinking today? I assume you're drinking craft beer. That I'm drinking the Surly Grapefruit Supreme. I bought it thinking it was a pale ale, and it's not. It is a tart ale because I kind of like the IPAs, and it is very tart, very sourish.
Really? Well, if you want a tart ale that's not quite as tart, this is what I'm drinking right now. It's the Queen of Tarts from Broken Clock Brewery Cooperative.
Oh, and what's special about Broken Clock there?
That they're the only cooperative. They're the only pure cooperative in Minnesota.
Those of us that don't know what a cooperative is, what is a cooperative?
A cooperative is a bunch of actual regular people, poor people, got together and chipped in their money and bought one thing instead of like one investor or bank or anything like that. So this is actually owned by 900 normal, everyday citizens in Minnesota, and I happen to be one of them. But this is the Queen of Tarts, also a tart ale. It's only a 4.7 ABV, and it's very, very light. It's not really all that tart. It's, if anybody is familiar with like a Goza, it's kind of like that. And it's a boysenberry lemon infused version. You could get these right now at Broken Clock Brewery Cooperative.
Oh, they still have takeout. That's right. You were telling me about that.
I got this from Seamus the other night.
Ah, Seamus.
It was sad. It was, it's kind of funny is that a lot of these places, since they weren't set up for, what we're doing now, is now it makes it feel like a speakeasy, like you're doing something wrong. The way we have it set up, like I did it, but at the cooperative, the way they have it set up is you can go online on your computer, on your phone, go to their website, and you check out with Square, and you put in your order. And when you get there, you have to pull up to the south doors, you text them directly that you're there, and then you flash your headlights, and then they will come out and put the beer in your back seat for you with gloves. They're wearing gloves the whole time.
It does feel like that you're gonna get arrested after. Seems like it should be
Feels
a
like-
drug deal of some kind.
You're doing a drug deal. Awesome.
So when we first you got me into brewery hopping. Actually, I never was a big brewery guy until I started hanging with you. And I kind of like the lighter beers. I hate dark beers, as you know, but you like a lot of them chocolate beers and all sorts of things. How did you get me into it? Like other beginners, I don't mean to interview you, but like other beginners, what if they want to try it out? What do you suggest they go to? Do you suggest they start at one of the big breweries like Surly or Bauhaus, or do you start at a small one like Wild Mind?
No, not Wild. And don't get me wrong, I love Wild Mind, but they are definitely the deep end of the craft beer pool. If you're a beginner, that can turn you off really fast. Because if you don't know what you're looking for, they do all the exotic stuff like what am I thinking? Well, I mean, they get their name because they wild ferment their beer, which isn't for everybody. It really depends. I think everybody has an idea of what they think beer tastes like,
Right.
and I think automatically people think, like when you tell them, if I were to tell people, the average person is like, I really like this beer that's infused with boysenberry and lemons,
Mm-hmm.
they would think that it's like PBR and somebody put fruit juice in it, which that's not the way that works. Same with the dessert beers, with chocolates and stuff like that. Everybody, if you're not familiar with what they are, you think it's just like somebody took a Pilsner and put chocolate in it or something, and that sounds disgusting, and it probably would be, but it's not the way it is. Really depends on what you like. I know my light just went off. Sorry, there you go.
One other thing I'd like to add to that too for beginners is always check the ABV, because if you're used to drinking just like Michelob or MGD or stuff like that, the beers that are very light in alcohol content, and then you go to a craft brewery that has ABVs of 8 and 10 that are like basically drinking hard drinks, hard liquor, and you don't realize it, you're going to get drunk way faster.
Oh yeah. But in my experience, the people that have the biggest problem is if they're not normally beer drinkers and they're hard alcohol drinkers.
Right.
A couple of them will go unnamed, but the people that I know of that normally drink like whiskeys and vodkas and hard cocktails like that.
Someone we're related to is what you're saying?
What's that?
Someone we might be related to is what you're saying?
Yeah, but I mean, I've had friends and stuff that when they're not normally beer drinkers and then they come out with me to a brewery or something, and they think, an Imperial that's 9, 10, or 11%. Well, that's not that high of a percentage compared to whiskeys, and I don't know the science behind it, but that it's a totally different beast. I know I've seen hard alcohol drinkers just can't handle the really high ABV beers because they're drinking them like they would drink normal beer.
Right.
So they end up pounding them down, and it catches them by surprise, and that's a mistake a lot of people make, but they usually only make it once.
Something I like to tell new guys that I go to breweries with that have a high ABV like that is almost take it like a whiskey, just a sipping drink. You don't need to pound them.
Absolutely.
Sit around for an hour, a beer, and stuff like that, and see how it's going to affect you.
If you're drinking a double or an Imperial or something like that, I mean, you have no business drinking more than 2 of them in a sitting. That's for sure. Or I wouldn't. Why you would? But that, to me, that's the difference between the difference between breweries, tap rooms, and like sitting at your neighborhood bar, is that generally speaking, people that are at the tap room are there for what I consider the positives, the reason that I'm there. Like, I like the social atmosphere, and everything's really mellow and everything, and generally you're just there to socialize and drink a little bit, whereas you're more apt to like party and get fucked up if you're at the local bar. And with that brings some negatives, in my opinion. Like, that's when people start getting really drunk, they get unpredictable, whatever. And that's why I prefer being in the mellow tap room as opposed to like the neighborhood bar more often.
Oh, I agree. I agree. It seems like a lot of the tap rooms that we go to, there's not a lot of fighting or anything going like that. It's more of a fun atmosphere. There's a lot of board games and a lot of, kind of sit around. I like the breweries that have like couch setups that we can sit around in. What was that one we went to the other day? It had kind of the antique feel to it before the quarantines happened.
Antique feel. I don't know. How big was it?
It was the upstairs. The downstairs had that store.
Oh, Clutch in St. Paul.
Clutch. I like that style, that atmosphere sitting around there in the old timey, like little living rooms basically set up for everything.
Yeah. That's like that's the second floor of Keg and Case if people haven't been there, which is really cool.
I'd highly recommend it. It was really neat, really neat.
I mean, I don't know. I really, with all the friends that I have that either work at or own different tap rooms in the cities, it's really hard to say like, yeah, I really like this one more than that one or whatever. I like a lot of different ones for a lot of different reasons. That one's definitely cool. I like the.
I agree.
The atmosphere. To be fair though, like it always seems like the times I'm there or like when you and I were there, like really late in the night, like maybe that last hour of the night, so it's not super busy. So I don't know. I've never been there when it's really busy, so I don't know what I'm sure.
I kind of feel like you'd lose a lot of the feel of that place if it was super busy. I kind of like the intimate living room setup they got there. I think you'd lose that if there was a lot of like mall atmosphere going on below you. So I think going to that place towards the end of the night is a lot better to go to personally. I just don't know.
But personally, I don't know. Like it all depends on somebody's tastes. Like I find that generally bringing people that have never been to tap rooms before to the ones that really put an effort into, lack of a better, I keep going dark, lack of a better term, but like that really put an effort into their atmosphere is usually to me what hooks people. And the beer is kind of an afterthought. Not to say that the beer is not important, but a lot of people don't realize how much fun, say like Bauhaus is. When Bauhaus is busy and you're there at trivia night, and then just the atmosphere that they cultivate, it's great. If you've never been there, that's one of the first places I usually bring somebody. Bauhaus, Surly's awesome, because if you got to go to the Midwest beer mecca, you got to go to Surly.
Yep, that's what I'm drinking right now. I like Surly.
And then I'm the opposite. My favorite Surly beer right now is do you know what a funeral bar is?
What? One more time?
A funeral bar?
No.
It's a dessert. It's like a chocolate caramel dessert.
Surly
Surly has a chocolate caramel. I think it's a stout or imperial stout or something like that. I just had it not that long ago. Actually, the last time I was at Town Hall Tap, they had a Surly funeral bar. It's amazing. I can't find it now. That's my favorite one there now. Excuse me. Now I'm just going to keep burping. That's the bad thing about talking about beer while you're drinking beer is that then I can't stop belching.
Well, right before we started recording, I had the same problem. I'm like, I got to get those all out here before we start. And then I've finished a beer in our whole conversation here, and I feel the same way.
I don't think you got to get them out because, it's just like sitting at the bar now. If you're having a conversation, then if somebody's not belching on the regular, then it just doesn't feel right.
True, but I don't think we have the level of Howard Stern yet being our first show that, maybe people tune in for that part. I have no idea. But let's move on to the next topic. I think we covered that one pretty good already today. So our next topic is, what are you listening to?
Are you listening to me? What do you want to do with your life? I want to rock.
So those that I'm sure most people know you, but some that don't know you, you are a lead singer, one of the lead singers of a local band called Pop Rocks. And obviously everything's in hiatus right now with the quarantine and everything going on. But little fun note, I actually used to work for Pop Rocks too back in the day. Some of our pictures in our intro were from that. How do you feel about the local band situation? I mean, I know it's going to be taking a big hit right now. How can people help support the local bands for when they come back out of quarantine? Because, you know, we're going to be, I've heard estimates of 6 to 8 weeks sometimes, and that's just going to be really hard, especially in the local entertainment scene.
Oh, it's gonna be longer than that.
They
I
say
guarantee.
for social gatherings, it's going to be longer.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, we don't really got to get into the ins and outs of it, but like, yeah, I mean, not to be a fatalist, but yeah, I don't think I think that's a very optimistic thing. How can you support? You know, I don't, be honest with you, I don't fucking know right now. You know, everything's in flux. It's one thing in the, you know, like with the restaurants or something like that, you can tell people like, hey, buy gift certificates, buy whatever. Well, you know, we don't have that. We don't have merch to sell, so you can't really do that. I'm looking at the bass player in our band, David. He does some original stuff. So for my band anyway, I would plug David. Say if you could go over to David LeDuc's Facebook page, it looks like he's been, if you tip him through Venmo, he will cover a song for you. So there's that. And he's also, he is in a band called Phantom Heart. And I know they have, you know, music for sale and stuff like that. So I would say go to his, David LeDuc, go to his page and see what of his stuff you can stream or buy.
So you think it's going to recover? You think local bands are going to recover at all, or you think we're going to lose most of them when they come back? Are a lot of them going to be able to come back, you think? Or
we were already, I mean, I don't know too many other ones that were doing it as their full-time job like we do. But I think my biggest worry is, you know, we were losing venues left and right as it was, and I don't see this being any help. You know, I'm kind of scared of when it's all said and done what stages we even have left. So that, I don't know, like very fatalist.
yeah, it's not really a really happy thing to think about, especially because I love your show, especially with all the different performances you do. You're almost like a impersonator of many different sides of talents of musicians you wouldn't even think to be in one same band, from Garth Brooks to Marilyn Manson. I mean, you wouldn't think of going to a show and seeing Marilyn Manson and Garth Brooks in the same show.
I was disappointed that I didn't think to keep all my costumes with me, because I was actually thinking that I could do stuff like singing Garth Brooks as Marilyn Manson or shit like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's a scary, weird time for everybody, and unfortunately, we're a luxury, not a necessity. So when this is all said and done, who knows what's going to be left out there on a national scale, which might be a little more joyful. I don't know. I've just started. I'm trying to think of what was the last thing I just bought. Oh, I bought Weird Al.
We were listening to Dare to Be Stupid earlier.
That was, yeah, because I wanted, for some reason, no, everybody keeps playing that goddamn End of the World as We Know It.
Right.
And I think that's too easy. I think the theme of the pandemic is Don't Stand So Close to Me by The Police. Dare to Be Stupid by Weird Al. Trying to think. I have one other one.
Message in a Bottle might be a good one. You know, we can be sitting on our own personal islands.
So. Keep your hands to yourself. Georgia Satellites.
There you go. Don't give me no lines and keep your hands to yourself.
We got it. Yeah, I should make a playlist, right?
Well, I think we covered that one. We could actually move on, since we're not dealing with live entertainment anymore. Let's go to the media. There you go, poprocksrocks.com. We'll actually put a link at the end of it as well. But let's go to What Are You Watching?
You know, stay with me, man. I'm full of information. I'm like an infomercial. You know what one of them is? It's information that you'll get in a commercial.
Let's freaking see if one's on now.
And of course, is the great Carl. Carl was built for quarantines, I'll tell you that.
Well, we're all Carl now.
I just don't own a pair of blue sweatpants. I have been wearing the sandals, and I don't have any wife beaters that fit me. But I'm starting to go a little bald up top. I could grow the Carl mustache now. And I've actually never seen you with scruff before, so this is kind of a
Yeah, that's gonna end probably tonight.
that's about as close to Carl as you could get.
Yeah.
Well, besides that, I mean, we're both big Star Trek nerds, obviously. Next Generation is by far the best, and I've been watching a lot of Picard. We've been watching every week, watched it a few times together before the quarantine, text each other about it. If you love Star Trek The Next Generation, you have to watch Picard. It's worth the extra $8 a month just to pay for or just to watch that show. They're going into their final episode next week. So if you wait until next week and you haven't watched it, you could probably just binge them all next week. Next Thursday, I think they come out every Thursday at 2 in the morning. Just an amazing, amazing show. They really did a great job with that. You and me were talking about that at the bar one night before the quarantine, of how they do nostalgia perfect. They do it a lot better than Star Wars does. They kind of feed you the nostalgia a little bit. They don't overwhelm you with it. They throw the like the hidden nostalgia, the ones that the true super fans would know about. You know, characters that are in 1, 2, 3 episodes that you have to watch the episodes as many times as we have to catch that. And sometimes you don't have to catch it. You know, you bring something up to me. I brought up the Bruce Maddox character was from an episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, Measure of a Man. And then he was just talked about in another episode, Data's Day. But, you know, that's all he was in. But he's a big central character in this. So they kind of deal with nostalgia right, I think.
Do you just do episode titles?
Yeah. I'm that big a Star Trek nerd.
What off for? God.
You know those episode titles, too, when I said them.
I wouldn't have known them. I honestly wouldn't have known them.
But
yeah,
you know the episodes I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
And we're to the point now that this has come out. I would probably, if The Mandalorian hadn't come out, I don't even know if I'd be a Star Wars fan anymore. I think it's such fucking garbage, especially compared to Star Trek now.
Dude, that's one show I haven't watched is The Mandalorian, and it's just because there's so many streaming options that you have to pay money for just to watch the one show, you know, and I think that's getting ridiculous.
Now you could, with Disney Plus, can you still get the 7-day free trial?
I don't know. Can you?
I think so. So now you could binge it. You could get the 7-day free trial and just binge it.
Is it done completely now? Like their season is done?
Yeah.
Okay.
First season's completely done. You know, I mean, I'm going to be really boring with this segment because, like, basically Picard's the only thing I've watched. It's the only thing I make time for to actually watch when I'm not obsessively scrolling through, social media about all this crap.
It doesn't have to be a show either that's new. I mean, we all have our go-to shows during, even not during quarantine, but like when I go to bed at night, I like to pop on 30 Rock. That's my go-to show, or Parks and Rec.
Literally just restarted 30 Rock 2 days ago. For the first, I watched it in maybe 2 years or something. Or it's been off Netflix for a long time, and now I think it's back. So
no, it's on Hulu now.
Oh, okay. Maybe that was it. But it was like, once it was off Netflix, then I obviously didn't watch it again. And then, I think I just rediscovered it on Hulu, and I just restarted it yesterday or the day before.
Alec Baldwin is absolutely amazing in that role. He's top the hill on that one, top notch.
Yeah, isn't he just doing a more intelligent impersonation of our current president? I think that's what he said.
Well, he kind of rips on it too. Like, you know, what am I going to do? Go work for the Bush administration? You know, and just starts chuckling about it and stuff like that. Not to get too political, but yeah, Alec Baldwin, he's kind of like the Archie Bunker of our day, where he plays the opposite of what he really was. You know, Carroll O'Connor was a big-time liberal. He played a hardcore staunch Republican, and I think Alec Baldwin kind of does the same deal. They play it so well. So, I mean, that's just my personal pick on that. But as I said, there's other shows you can watch. 30 Rock, 30 Rock and Parks and Rec are two of my big go-tos. Do you have any go-tos that you go to besides the new episodes of Mandalorian and Picard?
Well, I was that in Parks and Rec. Like go to like something that needs to be on while I'm doing other shit. It's always Parks and Rec. Still. Yeah. Other than that, no Picard. If people haven't seen Picard, I'm actually surprised at how many Star Trek fans that I know that haven't seen it yet.
I feel like they all felt like it was going to fail just because, you know, how old Patrick Stewart is and how poorly Star Trek has done when they reboot things. I mean, the last two movies I felt like weren't any good, and they're kind of going off a different tangent, but just kind of forgetting about the Next Generation thing. But, the last time we saw Next Generation was on Family Guy. And that was the last time the cast got together. So
The last two Star Trek movies were very good.
right. That's what I was saying. The last two Star Trek movies weren't very good.
To me, it didn't feel like the last two Star Trek movies didn't feel like it was the same universe or something. I don't know. It didn't feel like Star Trek. I didn't think
They lost me when they had the Khan. But when he came out and said, "My name is Khan," like it was supposed to mean something to those characters, because Khan meant something in Wrath of Khan because he was from the TV show, and in the movie he says, "My name is Khan," and they all act like they're surprised or shocked. I'm like, you shouldn't know who that is yet.
right.
That bothered me.
Yeah, it didn't need to be that. But I'm saying, like, I can watch them as freestanding movies, but to me it doesn't feel like Star Trek.
Right. The one thing Picard does, which is kind of interesting, is it kind of mixes the Next Generation with that style of J.J. Abrams' style. You get a lot of lens flares. You get a lot more violence in the Picard episodes than you'll ever see in a Next Generation episode. Except for the early ones. There's some gory Next Generation episodes in the early ones. But, there's a lot more violent. There's heads chopping off in this one. There's swearing. There's, Vaping. Yeah. There's still drug use, apparently, in the 24th century.
They haven't figured. Yeah. You think 100-something years from now you wouldn't have vaping, but whatever.
It's longer than 100 years. It's 2384, so that would be what?
Okay. Hundreds of years to have vaping. But
true, and they've talked about in early episodes of Next Generation how they got rid of poverty and they don't use money, but then they use money in different episodes, and now spoiler alert, his former first officer's in poverty, basically.
Yeah. The Federation doesn't. I thought others do. That's what Latinum is.
Oh, maybe it's, I don't know. It's hard to talk about how you don't have money in poverty. I believe they actually say in one episode early on when they thaw out those people from the 20th century that we don't have poverty, we won't have money anymore, and then they bring in the Ferengi like 3 episodes later, and their whole thing is talking about greed, and they're the Republicans of the 24th century, basically, are the Ferengi.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So,
wait, I just brought up my YouTube channel. I saw you have 15 views for your first.
For the one I made last night.
Yeah.
The commercial.
Your all blue stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, times are tough. It's hard to buy new costumes right now, as you know, and back a little bit, but
I just found that episode. No Hunger.
What's that?
Star Trek. Oh, if you could look at, I just went to YouTube to look it up, but there's a couple of them that say like economy and Star Trek and shit.
Oh yeah, I know. It's where the thaw of the people out. The episode's called The Neutral Zone, but it's where they thaw the people out from the 20th century. And one guy was a big stock guy. And he wanted to see what his portfolio was like nowadays, and they're like, "Well, we don't have that anymore."
But yeah, way better. It's so much better. Like, and to be completely fair, because I've had discussions with Lee about Star Wars, and I haven't seen the animated stuff, like what are they called? Clone Wars. And there's another one, Rebels, I think it is. The animated series, the 2 animated series.
I haven't.
I haven't seen those, so I don't know if they're any good. But generally speaking, in my mind, The Mandalorian is the only good thing that Star Wars has in the past 10 years. Like, those movies are garbage. the last two, anyway. The last two movies are total fucking garbage. And the first one I didn't mind, but all of it's just really, really bad.
So to kind of summarize what we're talking about, the main ones we recommend are Picard to watch on quarantine, 30 Rock if you haven't watched it, Parks and Rec, which is always a grand go-to. If you haven't watched Star Trek: The Next Generation, now's a great time to fall in love with Star Trek. Start with The Next Generation. You'll love it. You can always go back in time to Star Trek, the original series if you want to, but Next Generation is the way to go.
This would be a good segue, like, you know, where you could actually, the segment could be like, how have you not fucking binged this yet?
For the future, bring that
like,
up.
Maybe not the Star Trek ones or anything like that, but like if somebody had told me, it's like, yeah, I've never watched Star Trek. I've never watched Parks and Rec before. How the fuck have you never watched Parks and Rec?
I don't know. It's like, well, I like to tell people too, a nice little thing to watch. They always say, whenever you see those posts on Facebook where they say, what should I be watching on Netflix now? And, you know, they always fall for the stupidest shit, you know, that somebody recommends. I always recommend 100 times over Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch. I know I just knocked him earlier for being Khan, but those shows are incredible. And I really like those shows.
Yeah, they're not a casual watch though. That's the problem with those.
No.
Yeah, you got to be committed. Like I'm gonna sit down for an hour and a half and watch an episode.
Right. Each episode's about 90 to 120 minutes. So they're like mini movies, but there's only 3 episodes a season, but they are really, really good. And hey, you don't have anything to do right now. You're locked in your house.
Right. I'm saying, but if you compare them to like the attention span it would take to watch 30 Rock, where an episode without commercials is 20 minutes, you know?
True, but if you watch one season of Sherlock, it's going to take you 6 hours, 7 hours, but then you start binge watching 30 Rock, and all of a sudden you've been watching it for 7, 8 hours as well. You don't realize it. Just how many episode breaks you have, you know. As he falls over.
I've come close a couple times.
Well, that's a good segue as any to going to what are we looking forward to?
You're looking at now, sir. Everything that happens now is happening now.
What happened to then?
We passed then.
When?
Just now. We're at now.
Go back to then.
When?
Now.
Now?
Now.
I can't.
Why?
We missed it.
When?
Just now.
When will then be now?
Soon.
Another great movie to watch, Spaceballs, if you haven't watched that one yet. But I still meet people who've never seen Spaceballs. Unbelievable. But
well, depends on who you're talking about. Like it is a relatively old movie now.
Yeah, it should have gave you more time to watch it.
Well, that's what I mean. I think I forgot who the hell I was having this discussion with not that long ago, but where now that we're this age, you know, and then you talk to somebody like in their early 20s, and you bring up something from like the 80s or something, and they're like, what the hell are you talking about? And then it blows your mind because they've never heard of it or, you know, never seen it.
Right.
Or it's like, if you think about it, pop culture just keeps layering on top of itself. And that, like, if you think of it as a cake, right? If you were born in the 1960s, pop culture in general was a one-layer fucking cake. There wasn't a whole lot of it.
Right. No, that's true.
Consumable. Every decade puts a new layer on the cake, right? So, you know, you're born in the 80s, then you had like 30, 40 years to look back on, 33 or 4 layers of cake that you can consume. And now we're to the point, here we are 60 years later, 70 years later of modern pop culture. And that's a lot to consume if you're a 20-year-old. Like, holy shit. Because you could say the same thing, you know, how the hell have you never heard of the Beatles? Like, well, they were 50 years ago, man, you know, 60 years ago. Yeah, you should, but
for that, I think everybody has heard of the Beatles, and I think using that, the classic should survive a lot better. You know, am I expecting people in their 20s to have seen the movie Hackers with Angelina Jolie? No. I mean, I've watched it. I've seen it actually just recently, and it was still as bad as I remembered it. But we're also talking about classics. Mel Brooks, he's unbelievable funny. You got John Candy in that movie. You got Rick Moranis in his best role as Dark Helmet. I mean, if you haven't watched the classics, I just don't understand it.
And that in general, the average 24-year-old is not going to know one person you just named.
True, but I don't hang out with a lot of 24-year-olds.
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like, the reflecting of it, where it's like, I think that's how, like, in hindsight, when older people look at a younger generation and think and see those kind of things, where it's like, how do you not know this? What, are you stupid? Like, it's just so tempting to think of some people as ignorant, where it's like, well, haven't been exposed to a lot of stuff yet because they're only 24 years old, and there's 7 layers of cake that you got to get through.
To be fair, what I was bringing up, though, is more like when I talk to people my age or our age that have not seen those movies. And, you know, the people I hang out with, they go, I've never heard of Spaceballs, or I've never heard of this.
Well, those people are fucking idiots.
That's my point. That's where I was more getting to. Like, I don't care about 24-year-olds. I mean, I don't, you know. But anyway, let's, we kind of got off track there a little bit. We're trying to look forward a little bit here. If we can ever get past this quarantine here, we're going to have summer. We're going to have, well, we don't have sports now, but hopefully we're going to have football. I love football. You and me both watch a lot of football. I mean, that's what we do. The Vikings just signed that big nose tackle after losing most of their defensive line. Where they signed Michael Pierce. What was he, like 6'5", 340, 360 or something like that? Just a moose.
What do you mean they lost most of their defensive line? I thought it was just Linval Joseph.
No, they lost Everson Griffin today. Said he's done. They're not going to re-sign him anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a salary cap move. Or is he just going to be done?
Well, they cut him, and they were going to say that they're going to re-sign him for a smaller amount of money, but he came out today and said they're not going to be able to agree, and he's done in Minnesota, sadly. So that's 2 big parts of our defensive line that are gone. We lost Trey Waynes to Cincinnati. We lost Mackenzie Alexander to Cincinnati. Cincinnati apparently is going to take our secondary. I don't know why, but
because they're Cincinnati.
Well, because they're worried about that potent Browns offense when they got Case Keenum coming in there, right?
Hey, yeah, hell yeah. Finally.
People don't know Ryan is a giant Browns fan, Vikings fan as well, but Browns fan. He was actually you're born in Ohio, correct?
I was born in Indiana.
Oh, Indiana, okay, but you spent some time in Ohio.
The Colts.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't even know I was in Indiana. Not very long. No, I like Cleveland because, you know, my dad was, and my dad grew up there, and all his family are still there, so he carried it over to me, and now for some reason I give a shit about them.
It's kind of sad that you're Browns and Vikings fans. I mean, if you threw in the Lions fans there, you could really be disappointed every year.
Not really, because like when was the last time the Lions ever raised your expectations?
Well, that's true. The Vikings do raise your expectations, and we had to talk about how the Browns are raising. I win a bet on you every year on the over/under on the Browns wins, because they have a way of hyping up their fans, showing that this is going to be the year, and they can never.
This. No, hey, do you know? Because what did the collective bargaining agreement end up being? Would it like that? What's the playoff structure now? I saw that that's all going to change, and they agreed to a 17th week, right?
Yeah, there's going to be basically what it sounds like is there's going to be no bye weeks for any teams anymore. So that's going to be, I guess, good for the fantasy fans out there, which we both are one of them. But you don't have to worry about bye weeks anymore, is what it sounds like. And then they're adding, it sounds like, 2 more playoff teams per division, per conference.
It's awful.
So there's going to be an extra 2 wild cards. There's only going to be 1 team that gets a bye now.
That's horrible. Why did anybody agree to that? That's an awful idea.
Well, the players like it because they're going to get paid more for more playoff games. So, I mean, you're going to have an extra – wild card weekend's basically going to have extra –
We're already running the risk of having a fucking 8-8 team. That's garbage. Now you're going to have like a 7-9 team in there somewhere.
Well, what the thought process is this is going to prevent that second good wild card team in the division that's got 10 wins to not make the playoffs because a 7-9 team, a Cowboy team, won the division or whatever, you know, in the crap division that they're in. That it's going to protect that division that has 3 really, really good teams that can't get that extra team in there.
That's where I would like to know. Well, was it ever an idea of like, hey, just because you win your division doesn't mean dick. Like, your division sucked. No one else comes out of this division.
Agreed, but it comes from more of the teams. Back in the day, there was only 6 divisions. Before there was East, West, and the North, or the East, West, and the Central, basically in each conference, and then they spread it out, and it is what it is. It's more football. I mean, I like more football. I worry that it's going to make it go down. That maybe more injuries, more talent pool going to go down. But hey, if it might cause teams not to tank a little bit too, if you have a shot at making the playoffs at 8-8 or 7-9 and get blown out by the number 2 seed. I mean, it gives us hope. I mean, as Vikings fans this year, we beat the Saints, and then everyone's like, hey, we can beat the 49ers. And realize that they're, have that false hope. Then you go in there and see, oh, they're actually a way better team than us. And I think that's kind of what this is going to do anyway, too. It's going to, the good teams are going to be able to blow out these bad teams that sneak in there, but it's going to give more fans more hope a little longer, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I can see where you could not like it, but
it's going to be more football, but it's going to be more not good football. It's going to be, it's going to be one of those games. It's going to be one of those games that you can basically turn it off by by halftime. Like, all right.
I mean,
oh yeah, forgot about that.
There's always upsets, though. I mean, Miami finds a way to beat New England every year, even when New England was incredible, and Miami's always the worst team. They find a way to beat. What's that?
But never in the playoffs. They don't.
No, but they always, they always find a way to beat them. I don't know how, but speaking of which, New England, I don't know who's going to play quarterback for them this year. I just, feel bad for Bobby's family back home. They're all Patriots fans. This will be the first year that welcome to being a Vikings fan, because you don't know if your team's going to win the division walking away with it anymore.
Well, you could literally say, welcome to being every other team's fan. They're the only ones that have ever been able to do that. Like, for the last 20 years, Jesus Christ. So, no, you know what? No, I don't feel bad for them. Like, you've had more winning than you ever deserve in a lifetime. So you're done for now. It's time for somebody else. It's time to go back to actually having parity. Maybe not in that division, because who knows? Can you see, like, Buffalo coming back to prominence now?
Well, they got Stephon Diggs. I don't know why it's not Sidney Rice, but I wonder what happened to him. I think I saw him the other day bagging groceries over at Aldi. But
going back to that one.
Oh, the Nihilus?
Yeah, it's not bad.
They're Nihilus, Donnie. Don't worry about it. They ain't gonna hurt you.
No, Donnie, these men are cowards.
Yeah.
They're cowards. That's I'm going to that one now.
Well, some other football news I want to quickly touch on too. There's something, it's the only thing we have right now, because with everything shut down, the NFL decides, hey, we're at least going to be the number one thing to talk about, even though our season is 5 months away or 4 months away or whatever it is. But our boy Jimmy James, our big friend, big Falcons fan, and they got Todd Gurley, which stay healthy. That's going to be really good for them. That's a big deal. And then be interesting to see Tampa Bay with Tom Brady. I mean, what is he, 55, 60 years old now?
That's where you got to throw up that graphic that said, hey, if you weren't with us when we were 7-9, don't jump on the bandwagon when we're 8-8.
I did. I sent that one to you. Yeah. What was the other one I sent to you? Tom Brady posted on Twitter something like, bringing my talents to Tampa, and it was Jameis Winston posted right after that. Oh man, I'm down here too. What are you coming down here for?
My prediction on that one is that, like, that's going to be Tom Brady not being in New England is going to be like Superman not with a yellow sun. He's fucked. He's just going to get fucked. This is where he's going to have his Joe Montana moment, and by that, this is where he takes the spike in the back and is done. This is it.
I'm going to disagree with you there, because Joe Montana did make, I believe, the AFC title game, or I know he made the playoffs with the Chiefs. I don't know if it was the AFC title game. I know he made it pretty far with the Chiefs in his 2 years there. Brett Favre did really good when he came to the Vikings. He had his best year as a Viking. And And, me and your brother have had talks over the years. You always have that debate. Oh, Brady's nothing. He's not the GOAT because, well, that's what your brother says, because he has Bill Belichick. Well, now he doesn't have Belichick. If he goes and does it in Tampa Bay, guys like your brother can't say anything about it anymore. It's and Belichick's kind of got the same way. Who's he going to take? Who do you think's going to be the quarterback there? They're talking Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton win it in that system? I mean,
The Rocket.
the Red Rocket, the soulless one.
Dude, that's where you got to splice in Cartman doing the Red Rocket, boy. Red Rocket.
So if I was so much better at this computer stuff, I would. But
So you're recording this. See, you can edit from right here and go back.
I don't know if that's copyrighted on YouTube, though. I mean, that's a big
As long
part.
as you keep it for like 10 seconds, they won't find it. Because I have one on that Cynical Savior channel, where it's just who is it? Who's the kid with the crutches?
Jimmy?
Timmy.
Oh no, Jimmy.
And he's saying, "I'd like to tap that ass." It was just one of the funniest things. I think I uploaded it when I was high. I saw it when I was high. And I was like, "Oh my god, why can't I find that clip?" So I found it and I uploaded it myself.
Oh, I like
Nope.
the one where he says, was it Stan tells Jimmy to go tell Wendy that he's a continuing source of inspiration for him, and he says, "You're a cunt, you're a cunt, you're a cunt." Then she tells Stan to go and die, and then she walks away. A continuing source of inspiration to him. Oh, South Park. It's so inappropriate, but so dead on. Those guys are brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
No, I'm going back to what I'm saying is, and I'm not saying that because, I've had the same argument with my brother about discussion, that I think it's crazy talk to say that Tom Brady is not the greatest quarterback of all time. I just think it is. But I'm saying that outside of the Patriot way, outside of the protective aura of the New England Patriots, he's going to go down there, and I'm telling you, like in the first 5 weeks, he's going to get his soul crushed. Somebody's going to hit him so hard.
Maybe, but Tampa Bay has a better offensive line than New England did. They got better receivers than they do. Running backs, they don't really have better, but they got a better tight end for sure. New England's always been, or Brady's always done good with a tight end. He struggles when he doesn't have a good tight end. He hasn't had a good tight end in a couple of years. That's why they've struggled. I mean, you see Favre do it. You saw Peyton Manning do it. Peyton Manning, he didn't even have a neck when he went to Denver, and he still went to a Super Bowl. So
that's just my gut feeling. I'm not saying if he was completely healthy and stays healthy the whole time, quite possibly. I'm not saying it's out of. I'm just thinking. I think the magic aura that has protected him for 20 years will be gone, and somehow the luck runs out, and he just gets crushed at one point in time, and you never see him again.
This sounds like a perfect opportunity for one of our classic football bets then. The classic friendly $20 over-under bet on Tom Brady, win-loss with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'll even set the over-under for you. I'll set it at 9.5, and I'll let you choose it.
Wow. Shit. I don't know. I would actually have to sit and look. No, seriously, because I have no idea. I haven't looked at the other teams in the division. I haven't really paid attention.
Well, they got the Carolina Panthers, who got rid of Cam Newton. They're done with him.
Because now they got Teddy Two Gloves.
Yep, Teddy Two Gloves in the division now, so they got to play them twice. You got to play Drew Brees and the Saints twice at the Geriatric Bowl. Each time they play each other. And the Falcons, who just signed Todd Gurley, and Matt Ryan, Matty Ice.
Yeah,
Best division in football right there, I would imagine.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, who else are you going to say? The AFC West, they got Kansas City, they got Oakland, or not Oakland, Las Vegas, I guess now. Yeah. No, I mean, it is. I don't see who else it would be. Maybe the NFC West with the San Francisco, the Rams, the Seahawks, and Arizona, who got DeAndre Hopkins for nothing. They got him for absolutely nothing.
That would be mine. Like, just off the top of my head, that's got to be the best. That sounds like it's going to be the toughest division in football.
I'll tell you, Houston's GM is just like that one guy you invite to fantasy every year that pays all the money and never makes the playoffs.
Head coach?
No, that was their new GM traded him. trading him away for basically
I
nothing.
thought the head coach took over everything. I thought he
No.
was GM.
No, they brought in a new GM 2 years ago, and he's been trying to get rid of DeAndre Hopkins ever since then. Apparently, the rumor is he had a meeting with DeAndre Hopkins and compared him to his face to Aaron Hernandez. So that was a giant.
By what measure?
He said he didn't like that DeAndre Hopkins had his baby mama around, and that he didn't like this and that or what. He had some very, let's just put it, racist things it sounded like. And DeAndre Hopkins says, I've never gotten in trouble. I'm a top 1-2 receiver every year, and I have no issue. I've never been in trouble, and you're comparing to a convicted murderer that killed himself. You know? So he's like, ever since then, yeah, I wanted out of here, and Bill O'Brien's been trying to get rid of me. And,
Did he actually say that? He came out and blasted him in public like that?
oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. DeAndre Hopkins told Michael Irvin this happened. And Michael Irvin came out and told everybody. And then DeAndre Hopkins had to take a step back and say, whoa, kind of protect his image a little bit with the people of Houston. But
God damn, Michael. I know I should have told you that when you were high.
But Michael Irvin was a big cocaine guy, if I remember right, back in. Didn't he get busted for cocaine? It was him and Nate Newton, I believe. I don't know if that's true.
Oh, he was on the Cowboys in the 90s. So, yeah, I'm going to assume, yeah. No, he was. Yeah, he got busted for coke. Did the story ever come out about that one dipshit that got nailed with 150 pounds of weed or something in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see anything about that. I'm like, how can you have that much money and still get, busted? Part of the going back to the new agreement, though, they are going to stop suspending players for marijuana now, which is, you can bring Josh Gordon back. Maybe he can go back to Cleveland. And
I know, right? I'm just imagining that. Yeah, right. Josh Gordon saw that on his phone. I'm just imagining him smoking a big fat blunt, and he sees that, and he's like, "Mother."
Him and Ricky Williams, maybe they'd still be both in the league if they.
They should be. Good, because I mean, all jokes aside, I'm sure a lot of those guys don't use it recreationally. I'm sure a lot of those guys use it for fucking pain killing.
Yeah.
And I would much rather, if I owned the NFL or if I was one of the owners in the NFL, I'd rather have my athletes smoking weed than doping up on whatever the fuck Brett Favre was pumping himself full of for years.
Yeah, opioids. We already have a giant opioid problem in this country as it is, and now you'd rather have your players taking that instead of smoking weed and not doing anything. I mean, I don't think a lot of these guys would get in trouble at clubs if they're high, staying at home getting high. And we had a great Viking for a long time. Percy Harvin said he used to get high all the time before games. He was great.
And still run a 4.240. What?
Yeah, in a straight line, and then forget about where he was going. But he was damn good. He was damn good. I don't know if it was because of Favre, but a lot of those guys didn't become anything after Favre left. Like
I was
off the
I was in the field at the Metrodome when he returned a punt right past me, and you can't even over exaggerate. Like it's mind blowing that a human being can actually be that fast. You really you can't appreciate it if you're watching it on TV as opposed to like right there. It's amazing.
Well, you and me both played football for many, many years, and the speed that those guys are at, especially if you get down on the field or close to it and see the actual speed those guys are going, it's amazing that people don't die on that sport every year, that as fast and as hard as they go.
That's one of the big reasons why I really think they need to change the kickoff thing over to the way the XFL does it. Like that just makes sense. And I'm, growing up through high school, playing ball and whatever, I was one of the people on special teams. I was on the kickoff team, where a lot of people don't remember, but like the way kickoffs used to be 20 years ago was you would get the ball and then 5 guys in front of you would make a wedge.
Yep,
and you try
lock arms.
And then on the other side, I was one of the guys that my entire job, I didn't even care about the ball carrier. My job was to run as fast as I could and throw myself into that wedge. to try to knock those guys down so somebody behind me could get to the ball carrier.
I believe that was called the wedge breaker.
Wedge buster.
Wedge buster.
And now we were high school kids, for Christ's sake. Now make guys my size now, 230, 240 pounds, and then have them run a 4.340 and run into each other like that. That's fucking insane.
And not only that, they're running full speed at each other from two different sides. They're not rushing against each other. They're running full speed into each other. It's basically a head-on car wreck each time, you know.
Yeah, no, the reason I was saying that is that now seeing how fast a guy runs that at the pro level, 4.5, 4.40, and doing that, how much more force that is. Jesus Christ, that's insane that they still do that. It's fucking nuts.
I always felt like it's.
Hey, did they adopt the fourth down thing?
Fourth down.
The onside kick thing. They wanted to get rid of the onside kick.
I didn't see it. I know it was brought up. I don't think it got voted on yet, or if it did, I don't know anything about it. So if I say yes or no, that someone's going to call me out on it because I don't. But I think that should be a thing because onside kicks are boring to watch, in my opinion. I think watching a team go for 4th and 15 from their own end would be a great thing to do. And you could still onside kick for the surprise ones too. I mean, you don't have to take that out of the game, but you know, you could still have an extra option of going 4th and 15. I think that'd be a lot more fun to watch. Personally.
Yep. That's just good for football.
Yeah. And I'm all for taking – I don't know how you feel about how the XFL does extra points. Have you seen how they do extra points now?
I know they have like a 1, 2, and 3, but I've never watched the XFL. I don't know. I didn't give a fuck.
They have a 1, 2, and 3. They have no kickers for an extra point. You can take it – I think it's from the 1, the 2, or the 5. I think they actually have a 4.1 from like the 15. I'm not sure. I got to look that up. But yeah, instead of just taking kicking out of it, they just said, all right, we're going to line up for another play. How many points you get is depending on where you want to put the ball.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Another thing the XFL does, which I think the NFL is going to have to start acknowledging, and as you said, you haven't watched an XFL game. I've watched a few of them. They've embraced gambling. NFL has always been afraid of gambling. They don't like to talk about gambling. Al Michaels gets in trouble occasionally because he says, well, that's going to help the players that had the over or the bettors that had the over in this meaningless game. But the XFL actually has the point spreads on the scoreboard as you're watching it and the over-under so to show where it's at, you know. And that's kind of neat. I think, you know, NFL has to realize that their main fans are gamblers, not just sports gamblers, but fantasy people are gamblers too. I mean,
yeah, at the same time, I mean, I don't know if I'd say the majority, a lot, but yeah,
you think there's less people that watch the games that don't have fantasy teams or any money in the game than there are people that have fantasy teams or bet money on the game? I think that's got to be the way majority.
Fantasy, yes. Gambling, no. Like straight gambling, no.
You don't think fantasy is gambling? You don't equate the two as the same?
No. Okay. Not when you're talking point spread, over under, shit like that. That's a totally different world from fantasy football.
I disagree because daily fantasy is kind of the same gambling thing where you can have daily fantasy. Daily fantasy is straight up gambling every week. You can do it.
But I would say because I think the NFL definitely differentiates between those two worlds though, because they've definitely embraced fantasy football. Not. I can see the other way because, and I'll say it like this: I think there's still a large percent of fans that are fucking morons that think that shit's rigged. Like, see it every week. Oh, the fucking refs did this, refs did that. Well, like as if the refs live in the basement of that fucking stadium and they give a shit about who wins or who loses. Like that, whatever. But that there's a lot of fucking unintelligent fans that have that, and that there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And the NFL, I think it would be detrimental, or the NFL thinks it would be detrimental to have those things like gambling-related things advertised on the screen because it would just reinforce and there would be opportunities where somebody would be like, see, this is why the ref made this call, because the over-under said this. And I think the NFL sees that as we don't want to deal with that shit.
I can agree with that to a point. I mean, the NFL always tried to avoid Las Vegas with everything it could. You know, they never want to talk about Las Vegas. They always, Las Vegas tried to get a team for years and years and years. There'd never be a team in Las Vegas in any pro sport. Now we have the Las Vegas Raiders that are there. We have the Las Vegas Golden Knights that are there. It was the first team to come back, or of the major sports, I believe, to come back to Las Vegas, or to go to Las Vegas, was the Las Vegas Knights.
Yeah.
You have to get to that point where fantasy has turned into a daily fantasy thing. It's a daily betting thing. There's a lot of people that don't have bookies, or if you're in a state like we're in, where you can't bet sports at your local casino or racetrack, only bet online. A lot of people go, well, I do well in my fantasy league. I know this and that. I'm going to play the daily fantasy sports. I think that's just as much gambling as anything else. I mean, that's what it is. And
I'm not going to
argue. Starting to go towards that. I don't think they're going to go as far as the XFL will. And touch on your point about how fans think it's rigged. It's impossible, damn near impossible, to rig a game with 22 people on the field. You just can't do it.
I know.
Basketball, I think you can do that. I mean, it's already improved.
That's improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, with Donahue, you can prove you can do a basketball game. I mean, we've had shaving scandals all through years. But with 22 guys that are in a fight every play, you can't tell those guys to take it easy. If you did, you'd be able to tell, because we have that every year. It's called the Pro Bowl. So, I mean, if it was like the Pro Bowl, then you can understand it. But these guys are fighting each other. It's just ridiculous to think that. Now,
no. The big problem I have, I don't think anybody thinks that the players throw stuff, but there's definitely a large contingent of fan out there, unintelligent though they may be, that think that like the refs can be bought off, or the refs are crooked, or there's hometown refs or something like that.
Right.
And that's something that the NFL wants to avoid. Like they don't. If I'm an NFL owner or an exec, I could see that I want to avoid at all costs having that number up on the screen when a ref misses a call or something like that, because then you'll have the mouth breathers going, see, that's why.
You can see that. To be devil's advocate on the other side, they need gamblers. They need Las Vegas. They need people that are gambling, because I going back, I think the majority of people that watch football games are gamblers, whether it's fantasy, daily fantasy, or anything like that. I don't think there's many pure just I'm watching football just because I love football and I'm going to follow my team to the end. I think they're a dying breed.
Then say this. Do you think that's going to like? I think the margin for them, the pros don't outweigh the cons to that of putting stuff up like on the screen and shit like this. This way they have plausible deniability. Like, hey, we're not gambling.
True. But I think
regardless, it's going to happen. They don't need to advertise it and broadcast it, because then that, I think in their minds, it makes them look shadier.
I think you're true about that, but I think at the same time, I think more transparency is better. I don't think anybody's talking. I mean, the XFL is not that big, but I don't think anybody sees that and goes, see, they're rigging games. The XFL has done what they've done is they've embraced that side. They're like, hey, we need gamblers. We know where you guys are about us. You want to have that information on the screen. Say you're in a sports book in Vegas or whatever, or you're at a local thing and you're watching the game and you forgot what your ticket number was. It's right there on the screen. Might be something. Just
but to me, that's not transparency. That's just admitting that's again, the pros don't outweigh the cons for them on that. Transparency, what I did see with the XFL is that like they take away the Wizard of Oz kind of thing on the replay, where it's like, okay, well, it's going up to the booth is going to review it. And I saw that the XFL is basically like, now there's a camera in the booth with the guy who's sitting there showing you the replay and explaining what he's looking at. Like, that's transparency.
That should be absolutely what it is. If you want to get that away from the transparency of it's fixed, then that's the perfect thing to have up there.
Yeah, that I agree.
Yeah.
That should be in there. I think the NFL should jump all over that. Do it immediately.
Absolutely. But I think they don't want people seeing how inept they are up in the box and stuff too. I mean, Joe Q fan, how many times have we all been sitting at a bar? I know most of us don't know as much football as the rest of them, but we know a lot about it. And when you have a public perception of everyone watching the same play and go, okay, that is definitely pass interference, and they messed that up, or that's definitely a fumble, and it's obvious, and then they come back and you go, no, it's not, and then everyone's like, well, what? How could it not be? You know, I think that was transparency of having somebody in the booth saying this is why it's not, or explain this is a rule or this. I think that's a better route that they need to go on.
Right, and I'm saying that's transparency, not necessarily reminding you what the Vegas over/under is on the said game.
Right.
You know.
Well, I think that kind of transparency would be better for getting those guys that think it's fixed to get it out of their system. They may disagree with them, but at least they can hear, and the guy that's reviewing can be held responsible for what it is.
Yeah, that should happen. That's transparency.
Yeah. And the guys that constantly blow calls up in the booth should be held responsible. Just like in boxing, if you have a judge that is just so incredibly bad on a fight, like, I mean, they had it, 8 rounds to 4 one way when everybody in the world saw it 9 rounds to 2 or 9 rounds to 3 the other way. Those people get suspended and they get investigated and they get kicked out. You don't see that stuff in the NFL much anymore, and you don't know. I mean, how many people can name other people, referees that aren't head referees, and how many people can name head referees? I mean,
where's Ed Hockley when you need him? His
son's a referee now. I don't know if you've seen him. He still wears the same Baby Gap referee T-shirts as Dad wore.
I always forget the guy's name. The kicker punter guy for the Colts that has the
Pat McAfee.
Yeah, like he's got a really good episode on that. Or his theory is that like all the television networks plucked the good refs, and now they're analysts. And the NFL has never really bothered to like train up really good ones anymore. There's been a lot of B squad kind of guys in there.
Except for Mike Carey, when he went to the booth, he was just absolutely terrible. They fired him, I think, after one season because he kept getting. If you look up on YouTube, they have a Mike Carey one where I think it was CBS hired him, and he was getting like every review wrong that they go to him. Oh, that's a bad side for Bernie. Maybe he dropped out right now and we don't even know it.
I hope so. Like, and I don't got to like. I have his fucking sign behind me, but yeah, I think it's time, buddy.
He can't win.
No. Fighting a losing battle. Now I'm fighting other Bernie supporters online, where it's like, come on, you guys. The most common one that I'm putting in there is when I see people like, I'm writing him in anyway. And like, have you bothered to look up in whatever state you're in, if that even counts? No.
Yeah, and that ain't going to work.
I understand you're upset, but at least do a little bit of research and do something that's going to, I don't know, count. Do something that's going to make a difference. It's like saying, I'm going to wish upon a star. Well, good for you. It's not gonna fucking do shit. Anyway.
Yeah, it's look like it's gonna be Trump versus Biden. That's in the same topic of what are we looking forward to. I guess that's something that we're looking forward to if that ever happens coming up. If we're ever gonna have an election here in November, if we ever get to leave our homes again. But
you want to do an over/under on that one?
On what time we get to leave our homes?
Yeah, I was talking to J-Bone. I forgot what the hell he said. He was like, oh, I think this is all going to be, I think he laid out like a 6-week timeline. I was like, whoa, I think that's very, very wishful.
Yeah. Well,
that's going to happen.
People also forget the hypochondriac side of this too. When people develop.
Save us right now.
Well, hey, I woke up this morning with a cough, and the first thing I'm thinking of, did I catch it somewhere? Do I have it now? And that's the thing that goes through your head even when you get a cough. I don't have the other symptoms. I don't have a fever. I don't have what's the other one? Trouble breathing. I don't have any of those. But when you start coughing, you go, okay, wait a minute, what happened now? The hypochondriac people, when they develop one symptom, they're going to think they all have it, and that's another reason why we have to stay quarantined so the medical system does not get overwhelmed with these people, because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be going in and frankly are scared.
I know, that's what God, I'm a little drunk now. I can't remember who it was in the Tim Walz presser this afternoon. I forgot who the woman was. I know she's probably like head of the health department or something like that, or she basically, well, not basically, bluntly put it out there. It's like, don't come in.
Who's the one that had the AIDS crisis, I believe, under Bush, right?
I have no idea. She's got gray hair.
Yep. She was head of the AIDS crisis, I believe, under Bush, and she actually was in front of it. She knew that blood transfusions were propagating this new disease, AIDS, at the time. And when she was pregnant, she went into a coma. And before she went into a coma, she said, "Don't give me a blood transfusion, whatever you do." And then she was out, and her husband made sure she didn't get this blood transfusion. And it turns out that would have been infected with AIDS. She would have been infected with AIDS because that was before they were testing for it. And she became, after that, she became head of the AIDS pandemic team, I guess. I believe it was under Bush. And, you know, now she's in charge of this pandemic, basically. But she's a bipartisan. She's brilliant, apparently. For everything I've read about her, she's very, very brilliant. And so
you should edit all this out. This is depressing now.
Well, yeah, exactly. This topic's supposed to be what are we looking forward to, and now we're talking about stuff inside. But hey, introverts like myself, it made me build this studio that I'm sitting in right now. With my fake green screens behind me, and now we have a show, and I guess we can kind of start wrapping this up. I don't know how often we do a show, maybe once a week, maybe twice a week. I'll leave that up to you, how often you want to do this show.
I don't know, I'm just
Go ahead.
I don't know, I'm just sitting here.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll see how well it does, and if there's a demand. And basically, we're doing it for us too. I mean, it gives us something to do. And as I said, we've sat here and drank 3 or 4 beers as we've been doing this. And also tomorrow night on my channel, I have live trivia. We're going to do that. Me and Ryan are also talking about doing a music trivia at some point. We have to work out the details of that. This is a brand new channel, as you guys know, if you're watching this, brand new channel. We're also going to have another new show coming up here soon, probably in a week, hopefully. I was talking to our friend Richie. We were talking about doing a boxing podcast too, a little boxing show. Richie is a genius when it comes to boxing. So something to do there. So more things to watch, and we'll try to touch on this every week here. And you got anything else you want to add there, Rye, for our inaugural show?
I don't know. I got to figure out the whole live broadcast thing before we do the trivia thing, because I'm still confused of how, like, I could have 20 viewers on there and I could ask people like, "Hey, let me know if you can hear me," and absolutely nobody says a fucking thing. So.
Well, that's on Facebook Live. I got this already set up on this. If we were going to do the private, he's not talking about my trivia show tomorrow, by the way. My trivia show tomorrow is going to be a broadcast where you're just basically doing it in your house. There's not going to be any interaction between you and me. I'm going to be doing this show for you and your household. You can either play with everybody in your house against each other, or play to see how many questions as a team you can get right. Basically, bar trivia. I'm a bar trivia host when we're not under quarantine. But he's talking about hosting a private trivia show with like 30, 40 people and play for money, which I don't know if that's legal or not. We have to look into that as well. And how to keep people from cheating. So if people know different ideas, you can throw it in the comments down there. I think that's what people say on this YouTube. I've never done a YouTube show. But
comment, subscribe, hit the bell.
Is that what it is, the bell?
I don't know what that does.
No. My son has a YouTube show. I don't know anything about it, but he plays games for people to watch, Roblox games. So, but yeah, so as I said, we got that coming up for this channel. And anything else you want to add on there, Ryan?
Go to Broken Clock Brewery Collective and get Queen of Tarts, because it is fantastic.
And certainly is always a good place to go if you're a new person into it as well. I don't know if that shows up very good. No, it doesn't, because it thinks it's green. So
anything you want in there then. Yeah,
I guess I could put anything I wanted in there. Yeah, so it'll be wow, can't really talk at the end of a show here. We're gonna have to learn that to stop drinking as much or as quickly towards the end of our shows. Actually, it might make us better. Who knows? So I look forward to all that on our screen here, on our channel here. And
we should, like, the next time we do it, we should already be drunk when we start.
it's a good point.
Or we could do an entirely different podcast called I'm Already Drunk.
Conversations from the tailgate parking lot.
That's just an obscure enough title that it actually might work. Yeah. You thought about doing that?
The tailgate's our neighborhood bar that we go to when it's not under quarantine. But an after bar, the parking lot is a what would you say? A good adjective, but many different conversations of many different things.
We'll dry out for half an hour or an hour.
I'm saying the amount of different conversations that are had in that parking lot. It's
but I was going to say
the United Nations, I'll tell you that.
So our at Broken Clock, they've started doing virtual happy hour, which is like this. I would imagine like everybody logs in and you can hang out and talk to each other and whatever. That could be something that you might want to start, like virtual tailgate happy hour.
Yeah. Hey,
did you see when I was talking to Jeff, was it last night or the night before? He said that they're probably not going to do the takeout option or anything like that. So,
oh yeah,
be like the only way people will get any kind of a taste of tailgate, I would say.
Well, it's more the people. I mean, just like any local hangout, if any of you out there go to your local bar, it's kind of the same thing. You get to know people over the years, and you know, oh, I know what that is. So we better wrap this up here before he passes out. Thank you for joining us for our first show here. And as I said, we'll look for it. We're going to probably do this once a week, maybe twice a week if it gets popular. We'll see how it goes. We also have the boxing podcast coming up. We also have the trivia show tomorrow night. Hopefully everything works out on that. I got to figure out all the details on that. This should be uploaded here soon. And that's us signing off. Anything to say, Ryan?
I like cookies.
And he likes cookies. All right, guys.